Welcome back in, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We do appreciate it. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. He's Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. Excited. We have not had our next guest on the program yet, and he does a phenomenal job covering the NFL. He is the lead NFL reporter for the Associated Press, of course, covered Philadelphia sports for the AP here for a very, very long time. You can follow him on Twitter at Rob Maaddi, Maaddi. Rob, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
What's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
Good, Rob, bro. Good. How's Florida life, brother?
Man, it's awesome. A little rainy today, but it rains for an hour, and then the sunshine comes out. It's a hot sun, though. I do miss occasionally a little bit of that Jersey Shore action.
Yeah. Gunner's down at the Delaware beaches. He's rubbing it in today a little bit.
Yeah. When did you move to Florida, man? I thought you were still in the Philly, Jersey area.
No, man. I've been gone for 2 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad you're liking it down there. A lot to get to, Rob. And by the way, I suggest everybody check out Rob's Faith on the Field. You do an awesome job as the host of that as well. And just all the good work that you do in the community, man. Keep up the good work. We appreciate it for sure.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So, Rob, a lot to get to here. I wanted to start with this. Obviously, I know you keep such a close eye on Philly as well and what's going on with the Eagles. We were having a little fun in the first segment. It's been about 5 months since the Super Bowl, and I'm not sure if you were there or not. I'm sure you were. We're kind of all right. If there's one thing you could point at the cost in that game, what would it be in your estimation? What would you say?
Oh man, the punt return that stands out, right? I just spoke to Patrick Mahomes the other day, and he's raving about Kadarius Toney as a receiver, and I'm just thinking about the punt return. Obviously, of course, guys, the fumble, Jalen Hurts fumble leads to a touchdown, and you take that off the board, and we all could do the math, 38-35. That's a big one, but I look at those two as turning points in the game, and they were so close, they were right there. And it's just unfortunate. As great as Jalen played, he's carrying that with him. And I think Jason Kelsey alluded to that a couple of weeks ago. He said something like that's really eating him up inside. I sat down with Jalen probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's hungry. He's determined. He says, this is something I said last night on CBS Sports Radio in an interview. I've never, and I've been in Philly my entire life. I don't think I've ever been across an athlete in Philadelphia who is 4 years into his career, who's never said the wrong thing. If you think about it, Jalen Hurts never says anything to where the media can come after him, to where fans say, hey man, maybe he should have taken some blame for this, or maybe he should have done this or said this or whatever it may be. I mean, he's polished. He comes from the Nick Saban school, right? But my man always says the right thing, and it's hard, right? It's hard not to get caught up in whatever is going on around you. But I love all those intangibles that he checks off.
Mm-hmm. Rob, so how have you been spending much of this off time? Because I love to ask writers this. With this extended off time, a lot of teams didn't have the mandatory mini camps. You have to get a lot more creative with a lot of stuff you do between now and the time training camp rolls around. And I know you do more of a national landscape, but how difficult has it been for you in terms of the creativity, storylines, and things like that?
Not much, D-Gun, because with the national thing, there's always something. There's the gambling suspensions. There's Daniel Snyder. There is all the John Gruden stuff now coming back to light. So there's always I mixed in like about 10 days of vacation where I tried to just really shut off. You just walk away from it. And during that time off, hanging out at the beach, I had those interviews with Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes. Now I'm not going to turn those down, right? During a vacation, I'm like, all right, you know what? I think I can come off, do this for 15 minutes, hop back to the beach. But I was kicking around the idea of, hey, you know what? Everybody's putting out, and I hate doing this, guys, but like you're the list of the top 30, quarterbacks and the coaches and the receivers and all that. Like, if we wanted to do something, but I check with my editors. They're like, maybe we could do something shorter than that, but we don't really need to. We're not looking for clicks. We're not trying to do all that stuff. But it was an interesting exercise because I prepared mentally. All right, if I'm going to rank my top 5 quarterbacks, or I'm going to rank my top 5 coaches or top 10, where am I going to put Dougie P? Where am I going to put Nick Sirianni? Where's Andy Reid go? Where's Bill Belichick go? Because you look at his record without Tom Brady over the course of his career, he's got a losing record. So how would you rank those guys? And then how would you do it? Would you do it just, okay, based now on 2023? Because where's Aaron Rodgers fit in? Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, but is he top 5 going into 2023? Those kinds of things.
Well, let's follow up on that with Belichick, because for the first time, Rob, we've sort of heard, I don't know, little whispers or inklings like maybe Kraft's not thrilled with the way it's gone lately. Maybe Belichick's not happy they don't spend enough money to the cap, et cetera. But, there's no denying they've been to one playoff since Brady left, and they got smoked in that game. I'm not saying it's a big year for him from a survival standpoint, but could we be starting to see at least the beginning of the end with him there?
I think, and I heard that from Robert Kraft, and I go, like, Bill Belichick, even though 80 and 90 without Tom Brady over the course of his career, 6 Super Bowl rings should build you a whole lot of equity with your ownership and in that town in New England. And then you look at the Don Shula's record, and he's probably, I think I got to do the math, maybe
30
years,
yeah,
right? 3 years away, 3 good seasons, like
right.
9-10 win seasons away. He is 71 years old. So, and I don't know. I think he's earned the right to walk away on his own terms. And I think Robert Kraft would have a very difficult time pushing Bill Belichick out the door. And what would it take? If you're 9-8, if you're 10-7, if you're 8-9, and you're just in the mix, it's a tough AFC East. It's a tough AFC. 8-9's not going to cut it. 9-8's not going to get you into the playoffs. But you can't really push him out at that point. It's got to be a 2-15 bottom falling out, and I don't see that happening. But it's at that point now where the end is closer for Bill Belichick. And how long does he want to do this? Right. I'm sure he wants to pursue that record. He wants to get Don Shula's record and then move on. When you're 71 years old, you got to start looking at the clock and look at Father Time and what else you want to accomplish in your life and how do you want to spend your remaining days.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a part of them that also wants to prove that he can win one without Brady, as Brady did without him?
I'm sure he wants to prove that, but he's hard pressed to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know that Mac Jones is going to be the answer for the Patriots. And I know Bill O'Brien's come in there and they've kind of changed things around and see how they can, but he definitely wants to prove that. I'm sure, just like Tom wanted to do it. And Tom had a ton of success without him, almost came back the following year, if not for a defensive collapse there, but by Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I just don't see it happening for Belichick without Tom Brady.
Rob, how do you view the Eagles offseason? Would you say they're better, worse, to be determined? They lost some quality players for sure, no doubt. They were still able to hang on to some good ones that a lot of people thought may walk out the door. And it's a lot different this year because young players aren't getting red shirts. Like let me see what you got. So how do you view them going into this year talent-wise?
Well, it was a tremendous draft. So you got a surplus of young talent that's coming in there that I think can make an immediate impact. You still got to replace some guys who gave you a whole lot of snaps on the defensive side. But I think they're going to miss more the continuity and the chemistry with the coordinators, right? I know Jonathan Gannon gets a lot of heat in Philadelphia. But they had success with Gannon last year. They had success with Shane Steichen last year. And I think that's going to take a little bit of time. And when you look at this team, they're obviously the most talented and most deep roster, I believe, in the NFC, probably in the NFL, and right there with the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. But there's going to be, I think, a little bit of an adjustment period there without the coordinators, losing some of those guys, some valuable players. I think they'll be better towards the end of the season. They may not jump out to a 7-0, 8-0 start. They may have a couple lapses there. It might be 6-2. It might be 5-3, and then everybody's going to be concerned about it. But I think they're going to get better and better as the season goes on with some of the younger guys getting more experience. It is tough, though, guys. You know this. When you lose a Super Bowl, there's a little bit of a hangover the following year. And I think that could impact them a little bit. But, when I spoke to Jalen about it, and he said, this team's got to find its own identity. I love his leadership ability. And for him to be able to get these guys and guys like Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, they've been there. They've done that. They know you can't have what happened from 17 to 18 where some guys come into that locker room and they're looking at that banner. There is no banner. This isn't like that. You didn't win. So there is no championship. But you can't come in there and kind of rest on your laurels. You got to come in there and really be aggressive. And I know Jalen's not going to let down. And I think that can permeate the locker room. I'm a big believer, though, in this year's Cowboys. So I think it's going to be tough it's going to be a tough one, too, in that NFC East. And we haven't seen a repeat champion in the NFC East since the Eagles, that
04-05, I think.
Yeah, 04-05. So it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, when you look at this Eagles defense, give me the one entity you'll watch the closest, whether it's the coordinator, position coaches, or new integration of new personnel. What's the one thing that you would watch closest?
I'm watching Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. I want to see how much more time, how much more snaps Jordan Davis. Like, you move up to get him last year, and I know he didn't have to be that much of an impact player as a rookie. They had that luxury. Now it's time to step up. Jalen Carter drops to them because we know he's a top 5 talent. He was only available for all of the off-field stuff that he was going through. I think this defensive line, they were dominant last year. They were the best in football. They obviously had that letdown, couldn't get the Mahomes in the Super Bowl, which was a big key thing, going back to your first question about when you look at that game. But I'm looking at seeing how these guys can really step up and dominate and continue that success that they've had on a defensive line. I got to add, I love that they brought back James Bradbury. I think that was huge too.
Well, Rob, you just touched on the Cowboys. And I think we automatically go into, all right, it's the Eagles, the Niners, the Cowboys, then who? But let's go back. Let's revisit that. Who's your favorite in the NFC? And if you had to rank your top 3, how would you rank them?
So I'll tell you this. Right after I covered the draft, we had to do a way too early mock draft for next year, guys, right? So our college guy picked the players. I had to pick the order of finish. So I give him how I think the teams are going to finish, and I go 31-32 because that's the 2 teams are going to get in the Super Bowl. I went Bengals-Cowboys Super Bowl. Now, like I said, it's way too early. It's April. Right now, we're in July. Camps haven't opened. I don't want to come off of that. So I'm thinking this could be the year that a lot of people finally see the Cowboys for the first time in 25, 26 years, whatever it is, get back to the top. So I'm going to go right now, my rankings. I know Eagles fans are going to hate me, and I grew up in the 700 level. So part of me hates myself for saying this. Cowboys, Eagles, 49ers. But really, it's like the old Ric Flair. To be the man, you got to beat the man. In the NFC, the Eagles are that man. So until they get knocked off the perch, it's Philly. But they are those 3 teams. I think San Fran, Brock Purdy's health situation and Trey Lance and all that stuff might have them a little bit starting out at the gate a little bit slower, and that could impact you because you only get the one team to be the number 1 seed throughout, and that's whoever gets that, I think's got the keys to the Super Bowl. And I don't think it'll be San Fran because they may stumble a little bit depending on whether or not Purdy's ready, and it's still a little bit too soon to know.
You do realize you just set the city of Philadelphia ablaze by mentioning the Cowboys over the Eagles. You do realize that.
He's in Florida, man. He's good. Don't worry about it.
I know, man. I'm glad I'm not doing Philly radio anymore 8-10 hours a week where they'd be coming after me. I might be singing a whole different tune. But it's just that there's that Super Bowl hangover, a little bit of that letdown the next year. And I love the Stephon Gilmore addition and Brandon Cooks for the Cowboys. And I like Dak Prescott a whole lot more than a lot of people out there. I know he had a ton of interceptions last year, and we're in that era now where every interception is so magnified. I still remember when Peyton Manning used to throw interceptions. I remember when Brett Favre used to throw a ton of interceptions. So It's that old gunslinger mentality, and I think he can get past that.
I want to go back to Hurts for a minute, Rob. And you mentioned he never says the wrong thing, and you're right. I've never seen a dude 24, 25 as mature as him, ever. I mean, the approach is just perfection. The guy works his tail. That's why, I didn't worry one bit about this contract. I have no absolute zero thought that this is going to go to his head and he becomes an unfocused player. I can't remember a guy like this in any sport that was this dialed in at this age. And it's some of it's Saban, his dad, I guess, and a lot of it's him, to his credit. But you know what? Yeah, that's Chase. You know what? Good comp. But Chase didn't get up there. It was about 24, 25 because he played at UCLA. Right. But you're right. That's a good comp. But this guy is just different, man.
I look at in terms of guys who never say the wrong thing and are dialed in and know exactly what it takes to succeed in Philly. Bryce, right? Yep. Bryce, Chase, and in Jalen, B-Doc. But B-Doc, and you know B-Doc so well, D-Gun. He early on in his career, he just a little bit, he was still trying to find himself. He was still trying to get through some of those hurdles that he was going through. Also, he's not magnified as a safety. Like, you're not in a spotlight like a quarterback. For Jalen, to me, it's tremendous. I thought from day one, and we all go back and look at that pick and say, what were they at that point, right? They had Carson Wentz. We thought, what are they thinking here, right? They could address another need, but he handled everything so well. He was able to just navigate through what was a very difficult. He didn't think he was coming to Philly. He thought he was going to go somewhere where he had a better chance to play quarterback, not come in and be Taysom Hill in Philadelphia, while this team that is just struggling consistently that season. And I know it was COVID and all that stuff going on, but he handled all that so well. And I think, he attributed some of that to his dad, the coaching upbringing, and I mentioned Saban as well. But part of that, it's just him. It's his character. It's who you are too. You can be taught to say, and I think PR staffs in Philly know what it takes to succeed here and do a great job of telling players. It's one thing to be told, hey, say this, do this, act this way. It's another to do it. It's another to go out there because you let your emotions take over. And Jalen is always, he's dialed in. He doesn't say much. I don't know if he's getting criticism at all and in any way, shape, or form in Philly. I think at some point people may say, some radio guys may end up saying, oh, he's too boring or whatever because you don't say anything. I'm fine with that. I love the way he handles it. He's all business. He approaches things the right way, and his leadership ability in the locker room, the fact that guys can relate to him on the defense and the offense. He's not just, I talk to a lot of these great quarterbacks about this. What does it take to be an excellent leader? And it's relatability. And it's something that where guys on your team got to be able to rally around you in the good times and in the bad times. And they got to know that you care about them. I saw that here for 2 years with Tom Brady, where you walk into that locker room and you expect to see a mega celebrity beyond anything we've ever seen. And he knew the names of people in that building. He would talk to the backup defensive tackle, the third string, the practice squad guys. And he was so relatable. And I think that's something that Jalen has. And that's going to win a lot of games because the team can really rally around that kind of character.
It's funny you bring up Brady, Rob, because I used to do the post-game show on WIP with Dan Klecko. And Klecko played with Brady in New England. And he said to me, he's the most regular dude ever. Because I would always break his chops. When he'd say, I'm telling you, dude, he's the guy. We'd all go out. He'd chug a beer. He'd pay for everybody. He'd duck out. Nobody even knew what happened, whatever. And he would do all those little things that seem like nothing, that seem like they're not that important. And he would do that. What back to your point with Hurts, what I always tell Gunner is the thing that blows me away this was like 2 years ago when I'm hearing like Kelsey and Lane Johnson and Fletcher Cox quoting him and some of his, his all the stuff he throws out there. We all know that Rent's always doing all that. Like, I'm hearing those guys who are like 30 quoting a 22-year-old. I'm like, this is different. This guy's different.
Yeah. And that's a great point, because that ability to be able to do that. And when you see other guys taking on that mentality, taken on a little bit of now the work ethic kind of permeates throughout that locker room. He's a worker. We know that. And every guy, we always hear about coaches, first one in, last one out, things like that. But it's how do your teammates view you? And it's got to be genuine, guys. It can't be phony. Because there are phony leaders out there. And, I covered I covered the Eagles for 22, 23 years. I was there throughout the Donovan McNabb era. I'll never forget one particular press conference where Donovan is sitting up there, and we know how, he was sensitive in his psyche and things like that. And he thought, I'm the captain of this ship. Never hear, like, when you have to tell people that you're the captain of this ship, there's a disconnect there.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen don't have to tell you he's the captain of the ship. Everybody knows that. Everybody acknowledges that. It's understood. It's the way he acts. It's the way he approaches. You know what I love about him, too, is his coachability. We talked about this, too, because I said, how much of your coachability is how does that allow you to lead? And he says, when another player sees me be coachable, taking on, listening to Nick, listening to Brian, whoever, like, there's no one on that team, if the highest paid player in the NFL can't take criticism, who isn't going to be able to approach any kind of coachability issues or be able to be pulled aside or however it is and not handle it well. And I think that speaks volumes about him too.
Mm. Yep. Rob and I have talked about how the AFC in general has so much more quarterback talent than the NFC. And, a lot of people want to sit here and predict that Kansas City is the odds-on favorite to go back to the Super Bowl again. But if you go back to that playoff game against Cincinnati, one mental lapse by a rookie really cost Cincinnati in that game of beating Kansas City a second straight year in a playoff situation. Lamar's under contract. They're giving him more weapons there, deep threat weapons there. The Jets are just revamped with quarterbacks and pass catchers now. Sean Payton's coaching Russell Wilson, and that team was ready to win last year. Nathaniel Hackett was just not the right guy. How do you break down the AFC in general?
Yeah, it's going to be, it's the wild, wild west and throughout the AFC. Like you look at the addition of Aaron Rodgers kind of changes a little bit the complexion starting in the AFC East. It was the Bills division with Josh Allen and we all thought last year might be their season. And then unfortunately the situation with DeMar Hamlin played out and thank God that he's okay. And I know that had to be a major distraction for them, but I think the Jets are going to be competitive in the AFC East. And don't forget Miami and Tua Tagovailoa. I think, he looks like he's bulked up. He might be able to take on some of those hits. I love his mentality too, the way he approaches the game. I had a chance to speak to him at the Super Bowl. And even though he's gone through so much, my man wants to go out there and play. Like he could have walked away from that game. So you start the AFC West is going to be AFC East is going to be difficult. You mentioned Sean Payton and Russell Wilson in Denver, D-Gun. And guys, I think that like Russell Wilson, everybody who wants to bury him, I think it's a little bit too soon. I know Russell can come across as a little bit of, I was talking about those guys who were genuine. He may say the right thing so much that it kind of looks like this guy's a little bit phony. I don't believe that. I don't feel that way. I just think Russell's a different, awkward kind of guy, and he just doesn't know how to handle that kind of spotlight. I think Sean Payton's going to find, if anyone can, right, Sean Payton's going to get him back to his form in Seattle. But to me, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, like you said, were that close to beating the Chiefs again last year. And it's hard as it is to repeat in the NFL. Hasn't happened since 03-04 with the Patriots. Yep. I'm looking at the Bengals as the team to come out of the AFC. It's good. And let's not discount the Chargers and Justin Herbert and what they can do, and Lamar in Baltimore. And Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, can they take another step forward, right? He's now going to be there for forget about everything else off the field. He's going to now have been there for a full year in that offense, in that system, and how much better can he be? How much can they be? Does DeAndre Hopkins sign with a team and change the complexion of the AFC? If I'm D-Hop, I'm waiting for which Super Bowl contender can find a way to fit me in under their salary cap. whether it's the Chiefs or someone else. I'm not jumping on the Patriots for more money or the Titans for more money because they got no chance. They're not going anywhere. If you want a ring, if you want to chase, if you're ring chasing, you just wait for one of those Super Bowl teams to find a way to bring you in as that missing piece.
Rob, let's go running back, sort of related to this, and we see Cook out there. We see, Elliott's still out there, Fournette, et cetera. I would certainly put Cook. Yeah, right. And I would put Cook number one. But you also see some of this stuff happening with Saquon. And I know some of this is posturing because they're getting close to their deadline, which is the 17th, et cetera. But what a weird position it's become. These guys put their body on the line, get crushed, get beat up, and they are so undervalued, man, or not. I don't know if it's undervalued, but they're just really underpaid, and it's a tough spot now to be a running back in that league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't see any incentive for guys to, like, if you're a high school star who can be a receiver, running back, like, why are you going to be a running back? The way wide receivers are getting paid and nowadays compared to how the running backs are viewed. And I thought this about tight ends too. Tight ends are undervalued, and I thought George Kittle was going to really reset the market because you're doing a whole lot more than a wide receiver as a top tier tight end. You're blocking, you're doing different things, but running backs really get the shaft when you look at it in totality. And Saquon, what he's going through, Josh Jacobs, what he's going through, still neither one has signed their franchise tender. The deadline's coming up on Monday. I think both guys will eventually, they'll get that long-term deal, but it'll probably be backloaded if they have one bad season, if they slip, if they're around 3.9 yards per carry, they're gone. It's too bad but what we're seeing, guys, is you can find a solid running back in the 4th round, in the 5th round, in the 6th round who could step in and get the job done. It's a quarterback-driven league. It's a pass-happy league. And the teams that are winning and they're putting up those crazy numbers are doing it that way, and they find ways to supplement with a running back who can do it for a lesser stat. I don't fault teams for wanting to do it. If you could find a guy and pay him less, why not?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Rob, what do you think? I got to ask you this. What do you think about this story that just came out about Daniel Snyder, Roger Goodell? I mean, this is like espionage stuff, dude.
Yeah, and covering this whole thing, it's been hard, guys. And odd because like you hear so much, right? And working for AP, like I'll say about 20% of the stuff that I hear I actually get to use because our standards are different, right? And we have to vet our sourcing and go through this. And I'm like, oh, but I got this, and they told me that we can't use it. And I'm like, I got to eat it. I'm sitting there, and then stuff comes out, and I see these articles like, yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that, man. And it's wild. It really is wild. I will say this. They want him out. They've been wanting him out. He doesn't have many friends, if any at all, left among owners. And Jim Irsay kind of said it last year in October at the owners' meetings. Like, we got to look at this. It's kind of you're hurting the integrity of the game. It's a black eye for football when all of this stuff's going on. But this isn't in defense of Daniel Snyder. When he says that he's got, I can bring down other people, there are skeletons in other closets. Whether it's Robert Kraft, whether it's Jerry Jones, I'm just putting names out. Yeah. There are skeletons in other guys' closets. And I don't think Daniel Snyder is the only person who is a black mark or a black eye on the NFL. He just got caught.
Yeah. And the Don Van Natta story of ESPN, I mean, there's so many, it looks like cover-ups from Goodell, at least initially. Now Goodell realizes I was in bed with a snake like this. And now we're hearing that the sale may not go through with Josh Harris's group. Like, it seems like it's like a bad penny, man. You can't get rid of this guy, Rob.
They're going to try any which way possible to get that deal to go through, even in extraordinary circumstances. But hey, you mean the NFL, they want to cover things up so they don't look bad? That won't be the first time. We've been down that road before. I know all about that.
No doubt. All right, I got to ask you real quick before we get you out of here. We appreciate your time. Let's start with the Phils, 48-41 at the break. Half game out of the wild card. They've had some guys who have really stepped up, especially some of the younger guys in Castellanos, some guys who have have not lived up to the back of the baseball card for them. How do you see the second half working out for them?
I'm glad you asked me about the Phils because, I'm detached a little bit from Philly. I got my phone and my MLB app. I'm watching every game as much as I can. My wife won't let me put it on the primary TV, but I got the laptop. I got something. I'm following every game. I'm looking at this team is coming on. I was concerned about Wheeler and Nola in the innings they threw last year deep into the season. I thought it might see a little bit of a 09 Hamels. Remember, 09 Hamels?
He was terrible.
He was so bad they had to bring in Pedro Martinez to pitch down the stretch and then pitch game 2 and game 6 in New York, and that kind of to hurt them. They've been better than 09 Hamels, but I'm a little bit concerned about those guys. I think Bryce got to find a little bit of that power swing. Castellanos has carried them. When you hear the Cardinals GM say that they might be a seller, I'm looking at Goldschmidt. I'm looking at Arenado. I'm wondering what can they do to pry one of those guys loose. But then you got to look at pitching too. I think they're deep enough in the bullpen. Kimbrel's been a tremendous. I didn't think he was going to be this good.
Yeah.
He right now, dare I say, he's Brad Lidge of 08. There's a little bit of a comparison there. I'm so into it. I'm looking at Josh Harrison going on the IL going, it's time. Bring up Scott Kingery.
Yeah.
It's the final year of his contract. Can we see Scott Kingery he's versatile. There was the year where he hit 15, 16 bombs. He's Scotty jetpacks. He can steal you a base with the bigger bags. Let's bring him up now with Josh Harrison. Go DFA him too if you want. But I think it's going to be another Red October. I'm pumped up for that.
Okay. All right. Let me sneak in some Sixers here. Got to go Sixers. What is the plan, man? Because I don't see it. Begging Harden to come back does not feel like a plan to me.
I don't want to see the beard back. I really don't. I'm going to – Joel Embiid, as talented as he is, as great as he is, as generational as he is, I remember a Saturday afternoon, it had to be Saturday after they were eliminated 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, and I was doing 97.5 then, and I come on, and I'm like, they'll never win. I don't think they'll ever win a championship with Joel Embiid. And I got buried. You can't. How can you? And here we are. 3-4 years later, and I still feel that way. I think he's a tremendous talent in a regular season for as much as he plays, but he's so injury prone. There's always concerns in the playoffs with Joel. I think Daryl Morey's got some sort of plan.
Yeah,
he's too good, too smart to not have one. It's a matter of can he execute it as the dominoes start to fall around the league. And I see with James Harden, he gives you 40 points in one game, and then he's Ben Simmons or worse than Ben Simmons in another, in an elimination type game. I'm ready to move on from him. I'm ready to blow the whole thing up at this point. I'm disappointed, man. I can't believe they didn't get to an Eastern Conference final yet. They haven't even been to an Eastern Conference.
Haven't gotten out of the second round. I mean, that's been the extent of the whole thing.
It's mind-blowing.
Rob, I got news for you. If they're lucky, they'll get to the second round this year with this group. If they're lucky.
You're right. You're right. I mean, am I way off, babe? That sentiment about what I just said about Joel, are more people starting to feel that way and feel that?
Rob,
he's tremendous.
You
can win with him.
Here's I think what really did a lot of people in. Had they just lost to Boston, he just gave you everything he had and went for 33 and 20 and you lost. It's like, hey man, he needs help or whatever. But to lay down the way that he laid down in 7, I think damaged a lot of people. I do. I think I don't know that people are saying trade him yet, but I think they're saying to themselves, I don't think so with this. I think we're 1 year away from that. I think we're this year away from that.
And you never get the value. We've seen these trades. We've seen Barkley traded. We've seen Superstar AI trade. We've seen these guys. You never get that value back. I don't. I'm not following it as closely as I am the NFL, obviously. So I don't know what's happening with Dame Lillard and if they're going to work things out in Portland or where he's going to go. But I don't think I want to trade Maxey for Dame Lillard.
No.
At his age, I want to keep, I think Maxey's a core piece to where I'm not moving. I'm not including him in a trade for a guy who's making that much money at 32, 33 is going to be getting paid at 35 and 36.
Right. No question. Rob, awesome, man. Great kind of
Appreciate
running
you,
through
bro.
everything here with you. And we appreciate it. Follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Maaddi. Of course, he's the lead NFL host for the Associated Press, and he hosts Faith on the Field. And he, of course, covered Philadelphia sports for years. So we appreciate you hopping on, Rob. Anything you want to plug here or promote?
No, they could check out the recent Patrick Mahomes interview on the AP Pro Football podcast, available wherever podcasts are found.
Okay, awesome. Rob,
All right,
thanks, man.
Thanks.
Continued
God bless,
success.
guys.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Take care, Rob. Great guy, man. Sat in many a press box, as you did with Rob over the years, man, covering all the sports. So living the good life in Florida. So good for him. All right, let's get one in, Gunner. We come back. We're going to rank the Eagles. We're going to rank it. We're going to rank our top 10. All right. Now, it may be obvious what number 1 is, but I think it gets interesting after that when it comes to the Eagles. So we'll do that when we come back. By the way, you're getting a little sun there. You might want to put your
man.
Your lid on. I don't want you to get burned there.
I know.
All right. I'm looking out for you.
Shifting on me here.
I'm looking out for you. All right. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm going to tell you right now about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances is critical. And I was looking for years. I'm right there in the front of the line trying to find that right person. And I did find the right person, and it is Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group. Whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review, if you have a small business, you're trying to get those employee benefits off the ground, and you're not sure exactly how to go about it, Jim is the person that you should reach out to. I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and he's also always there as a sounding board. If you have any questions, or you're looking for any kind of advice, he's awesome with that. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You could also email him as well, Murray, Murray.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.